guys, I'm Laura Perucci and this is Let's Talk New York, a podcast to talk about living abroad and also about living in New York City. Before I introduce my guest, let me remember you that if you want to send a comment about this or any other episode, write me an email to laura@lauraperucci.com or DM me on Instagram, Laura_Perucci. I'm very excited about today's episode. I've been interested in this topic since I watched Living Undocumented, an excellent documentary series on Netflix. And also, I'm now reading a book called Deported Americans. So yes, today we're going to talk about immigration. And I want to welcome my guest, Luis Yanis. Hi, Luis.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
First, I want to thank you for being here. And also thank your wife and my friend Sarah, who told me that your story is very interesting. Luis was born in Guatemala in Central America, and today he is a U.S. citizen, but his path was not easy or obvious. Luis and his family crossed the Mexican border to get here when he was still a kid. And I have to tell you guys, this is all I know about his story, and I'm sure you're all very curious to know more. And trust me, I'm very curious as well. And I think this is gonna be good, that I don't know a lot. As many of you know, Tiago and I moved to New York City in 2014 because he got a job offer here and my life was not bad in Brazil. I'm not from a wealthy family, but I had a great life in Brazil. And before I moved to the United States, I was a freelancer. I had a lot of clients. I was independent. I had opportunities. My parents paid my tuition for university. I always had something to eat when I was a kid. I'm also white. A lot of these things are privileged that some people don't realize. All that to say that I always had mixed feelings about illegal immigration, especially after the massive amount of paperwork and interviews that Tiago and I had to go through to get here, to stay and work legally in the United States. I have to confess that whenever I saw someone that was illegal or just cheating the system to stay here, using a student visa to work or coming with a tourist visa and stay past the expiration date, I always thought to myself, why? That's not fair to me, or I had to go through many hoops to get here. But after watching the Netflix documentary and reflecting on my own privilege and everything that many of those illegal immigrants have to go through daily to stay here, I don't think this way anymore. Many illegal immigrants are here not because they just wanted to have a better life, but because that was the only option they found to find and get out of the misery to avoid many in life and death situations in their home countries. Many of those illegal immigrants try everything they can to become legal, and they even pay taxes, but the path to become legal once you are illegal these days is almost impossible. So after you listen to this episode, go watching that Netflix series. It's really, really good. I mean, if you don't feel sensitive about the situation, so you're not a human being. But with all that being said, Luis, I want to ask you, could you share your story with us? I want to know everything. How old were you when you moved to the United States? How is your story? And how is your life in Guatemala? Do you remember a lot of things?
So I was born in Guatemala in 1988. Don't guess my age, guys. For most of my childhood, I lived there until I was about 6 years old. So my childhood was probably like any other child in Guatemala. We came from a really poor family. I remember when I used to stay with my grandma, she used to have us, sweep the floors. But the funny thing is, it's weird because you would sweep the floors, but it would be of dirt because the floors were dirt, So we would clean the top part of the.
So it was dirt. There was no floor on the place that you live.
No,
I know. I can imagine.
So she had that kind of floor, and she used to live. It looks like almost like a barn, 4 walls, a roof. And your door, when you locked it, it didn't have a lock or anything. You had to lock it with a piece of wood against it.
Wow.
It was really cool.
Really cool?
I mean, it was very simple. So, so for most of my childhood, I remember spending time between my uncle and my aunt's house and then my grandma's house on my mom's side.
Is Guatemala like a dangerous country? How is the violence there?
It's dangerous depending on where you go. For the most part, in the little village that I lived, there was like not a lot of violence, not a lot of criminal activity. You know, everybody lived pretty simply. Yeah, I'm sure there was like some things going on, but like in any other small town or even big city, you're gonna encounter some danger somewhere. You just have to kind of, be careful. But yeah, crime I don't think was a huge thing. Where crime happens the most, I think, is in the capital, just because it's so many people.
South America, it's like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I mean, some countries are worse than others, but we all face those kind of problems, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I split my time between my aunt's house and my grandma's house when I was about 6 years old. I remember things, happy things happening when I was with my family, like my parents, because my parents were there for most of my initial years, except for when my dad left to the United States. Now, he was the first one to go illegally, but he became a permanent resident literally like a year or two after. Yeah, so
Oh.
it was very easy. He told me, he was like, it was so easy in those times because all you had to do was, have like a valid ID and just apply. And as long as you weren't like a criminal, then, and a lot of people, they go from their native country to the U.S. because there's more opportunities there. And with opportunities, you have jobs. And with the jobs, you have money. And then with that money, you can, help support your family back in your country.
Do you remember when he left?
Yeah. I remember he left, and I also remember that when he would come back, he would bring us toys. He would bring us, sometimes he would be in the capital, so he'd bring me like a cheeseburger or like a hamburger. And I remember he told me like a really funny story once that he brought me a burger. I started eating it. I was like, yum, this is so good. And later on in the day, he found the burger like in the backyard, like thrown in the in the garbage. So I guess I didn't like burgers back then, but that has changed a lot. So yeah, my dad left first. Then my mom left when I was about 5 years old, and she was out for about almost a year until my mom basically forced my dad to come get us. So in 1994, when I was 6 years old, that's when we started that process of crossing the border into the U.S.
You said that your dad was a permanent resident, like 1 or 2 years
Right.
after he
Yeah.
moved to United States. So at this time, he was not yet.
No,
Or-
yeah, when
so
he
why why you have to cross the border? Why?
because I don't think that at that time he was thinking like he was looking for an immediate solution. He wasn't looking to wait 2, 3, 4 years or whatever until we can go, over there with him.
Okay.
I think what he wanted, and because my mom was like, she obviously desperately missed her kids, and we were her only kids at the time. So
How many kids?
It's just me and my brother.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why my dad, and one thing that I do admire about him is that although he was already legal, right? He didn't have to cross the border with us. He didn't have to, put himself or put his status in danger, but he did it anyways. And, and that's why we were able to make it. So she was in the U.S. already by the time that my dad came to get us.
Was she legal or no?
No. Yeah, nobody was.
So things
Only
are
my
very
dad.
complicated at that time as well, because like
Right.
if your dad was a legal resident, I mean, if he was married to your mom, for me, it doesn't
Right.
make sense that your mom was not like legal, but who
No.
understands immigration in the United States, right?
Maybe back in the day the laws were different, or maybe my dad was scared to not report her, but basically add her to anything legal because for the fear of deportation.
Okay.
Which makes sense. So maybe that's why he didn't put any papers through
So and how was this process?
our voyage.
Yeah.
So I think now, I mean, always looking back, I always say it was like pretty cool trip and like very interesting. But so the whole thing started in some part. There's a part in the border of Mexico and Guatemala where that's where you start your journey. We literally did it mostly by foot and some of it by car. But this whole time, it was like we were like smuggled. We weren't like in the passenger seat. We weren't in the front seat. Nothing. No, we were like in like hidden in cars and in pickup trucks and then in like bushes.
Just riding with strangers?
We started first with it was a group of 12 people in total, including my dad. But my dad only went through the half point of us crossing the border. So I'll tell you the reason once I get there, right? So
Okay.
we started first in the border of Guatemala and Mexico. And I remember there was a lot of walking, and my dad would carry me because I was a kid, and I would sleep most of the time. I remember cross streets and like at night. And then I remember once we were like in this really big like desert area as well, but there was a lot of that and a lot of walking. So I remember being we would stay like in abandoned houses or houses that they have in pretty much the middle of nowhere. And the only purpose I'm positive that they served was to have people either hide there or stay there for the night and then, continue on their journey. First thing I remember was we were at this abandoned house and we woke up, me and my brother, in the morning, and we got out, and then we were served like a cup noodle soup, and that was the very first time I ever had a cup noodle soup.
Oh,
and
that's the ramen story?
Yeah, that's the ramen
my
story.
God.
Yeah, we would stop at abandoned houses, I guess fuel up or rest up, and then we would continue. And then halfway down the trip, something like interesting happened, and that was that we stopped in this like small town somewhere, and my dad left us, and I was like, he's left us by ourselves. But no, there was a plan. I guess these coyotes have this thing figured out. And what happened is that we stayed with a different family. So it was me, my brother, and I had like 2 or 3 like fake sisters, and I had like 2 fake parents. And we lived with them for like a weekend, like 2 or 3 days or something like that.
And your mom, your dad were not with you.
No,
You're just with this
family
that you never saw in your life before.
Never met them.
Wow.
They would be our parents for now, I guess. And I think the point of that was for them to cross us like a certain maybe checkpoint or something like that. Because I remember the main border crossing, but at this point was just like maybe crossing a checkpoint or somewhere where we needed like, family, quote unquote, family with us. We both played the part pretty well because we made it across that checkpoint. And then after that, I remember we had to cross even more streets and like more hide in bushes. And then we also had to cross like a really big river, not like with a boat or a canoe or like a stand-up paddleboard. It was this like raft was made out of like sticks and like tires or something. And it would just like hold like maybe 5 or 6 people at a time. So I remember that's how we crossed one of the places that we were going to. But yeah, that's we crossed that area, and I think then that's when we were like really the closest to where we were going to be when we crossed the border. So when we crossed the border, we were put in it was in a car, but it was only me and my brother, the driver, and then some stranger guy that I have no idea who that was. Maybe, I'm not sure if my dad was with us at this point either. I remember they didn't roll us up in like carpets or whatever, but in the passenger seat and in the driver's seat in the back area, they have like a little part where the back seat people, they put their feet. There's normally like a carpet there, but what they did is that it was a little more like hollow, I think. So me and my brother just laid there. We were pretty small, I guess. They just put the carpet over us, so it looked like there was like nobody there. And and that's how we crossed the border. I think somebody must have picked us up somewhere in Tijuana or something.
But Tijuana is the Mexico side, right?
Correct. Yeah. So somebody picked us up on the other side, maybe like closer to San Diego-ish or something.
Yes. So do you remember how many days? I mean, of course you don't remember, but you know how many days it took you, like from the day that your dad like came and until
I think so. I want to say 2 weeks. Pretty much spent almost 2 weeks like without a shower.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember when we got to my aunt's house somewhere in LA for anonymity. We got to her house and she was like, "Oh my God, you guys smell so bad."
I can imagine.
So yeah, we were like dirty and like I was actually like skinny too. I remember, we took a shower and we were just like hanging out there for maybe a few days. And then we just took an airplane like a regular. All you need is, I don't even think you needed ID in those days. You just got on an airplane and that was it.
That was 1994, right?
Yeah, 94. And then we went to Connecticut. Connecticut was my first home. That's where I would consider like where my home was, or my new home would be. And yeah, I mean, I went to school there. It was really rough. Me and my brother were both in ESL classes, so I managed to learn fairly quickly in those 2 years. So we became fluent in 2 years in English.
But I'm curious to know, like, how did you guys fix all the document situation?
Yeah.
I know that you guys got back to get in again, right?
Yeah, so after we got to the U.S., we lived in Connecticut for 2 years in Stanford. What's up, Stanford? Shout out to Stanford. If anybody's listening from there. But yeah, we lived in Stanford for about 2 years. And then we left Connecticut to go back to Guatemala in 1996. And my dad was like, all right, we're just going to go for like the summer, 2 months, fix our papers, and then we're going to be right back. It took us 2 years. I mean, and this is when this was easy. And that's when, my dad even started his own business. He owned like a city bus or, like
in Guatemala.
Public transportation buses. Yeah. 2 years of that. Me and my brother continued to go to school. And then finally, right, we made it to when it was time for us to move back to the U.S. because we finally were approved for our green card. And I believe it was June or July of 1998, they approved us. And literally within like a few weeks, we came right back to the U.S. And we lived in on the what was it, west side of Stanford. And yeah, it was like really poor area too at the time. It was like where the projects used to be. Now they no longer exist. There's like some other nice apartments there. But yeah, we lived there. And I remember, man, when we went back, we had maybe like 2 or 3 suitcases for me, my brother, my little sister, who I now have a little sister.
But she was born in Guatemala.
No, she was born in the U.S.
Oh.
Yeah, she was born in the U.S.
So
like in
she
96 or something like that. She was the only citizen.
Oh.
Yeah. And I remember when we went from Guatemala to the U.S. again in 1998, we had only like 3 suitcases or something like that. We literally only brought clothes. Just the clothes that we were wearing and the rest of the clothes in the bag. And we had nothing. We didn't even have I think we had a fork. Maybe we had a fork and a spoon. But that was it. We didn't have no TV, no chairs, no nothing. I don't even think we could afford them because for a few months, me and my brother would sleep on the ground with just blankets. That year, it was 98 or 99. We wrote a letter to Santa Claus and Santa Claus delivered us a bunk bed. So that was pretty cool. Thanks, Santa. Wow. Shout out to Santa also.
Do you remember it was weird for you to get back?
To the U.S.?
No, to Guatemala.
Not really, because it wasn't really that foreign to me because most of my childhood was in Guatemala. So just living outside of it for 2 years and then coming back was like, oh, okay, now we're back to, our normal rhythm.
You noticed something different? Like your life was better when you moved the first time to the United States after you crossed the border? Do you remember the difference?
Somewhat. Because now instead of living, where there's pigs there's pigs walking around and that we only have dirt floors and there's not even paved roads at that time. So, instead of having that, now you're in a big city with a bunch of cars and a bunch of sidewalks and big buildings. I think that's probably one of the biggest differences.
Going back there, when your dad decided to move to the United States, you're still a kid, right? You're 6 years old. Yeah. He probably didn't tell you oh, I'm moving to the United States because of this or that. No, he didn't tell you. But right now, after a lot of years, you probably talk about that, and he didn't ever tell you why he took this decision.
The main point when, people leave their country is because they want a better opportunity, a better chance at a better life. The thing is that our countries are, they're somewhat organized countries and they're okay countries to live in. I love my country. I would move back there also. But, the thing is that the opportunities for somebody to move up and make something of themselves and just be more successful than the average person is very low, very unlikely. And the only reason that you can do that is if you have, a lot of money. Yeah. And those are pretty much the only people that were becoming successful in Guatemala was just rich people. The American dream pretty much, it tells us you can literally do whatever you want as long as you work hard and, the opportunity will present itself for you to actually become successful. And I think that's one of the reasons why my dad wanted to be here in the U.S. because he knew we would have a better chance. He's living his life and doing great, but I don't think he wanted to just live his life and be great all by himself. He always looked out for us to have, an education and always move ahead and always work hard. That really is what led us to achieve the dream. I mean, honestly, I think I've achieved the dream. I feel pretty great about where I am right now, you know?
And I like the things that you said about like if you want to be successful in a lot of countries, it's like it's not for everybody, and this is unfair about a lot of places in the world. Like when you say like, oh, you just have to work hard and you're gonna get there, it's not like that, right? It's not like that.
No, just the opportunities
It's not
are
the
not
same.
the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. You know, it reminds me of a story that I told Sarah one day. I brought her to Guatemala, and you know, we had a really fun time. I always like to go to my village though, because, and when I say village, I mean this place is a village, guys. Yeah, so it's so small that they still have dirt floors in some houses, and there's only some paved roads. Only the main roads are paved. Water literally only runs for a certain amount of time, sometimes only overnight and sometimes only during the day. But here, to go back to my opportunity comment. So I brought Sarah to Guatemala and we went to this rodeo thing. It's like every year they do a carnival in February, not like carnival, like, you know, Brazilian carnival, but they just do like a rodeo pretty much. And that's
What
like
is
a
rodeo?
very festive. It's like when you get on a cow, not
rodeo.
a cow.
Okay,
Yeah,
I know, I got it.
There's like, you know, there's kids selling candy. There's also, you know, other people like selling other stuff, like little trinkets or toys or gums or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember, and this stuck with me, and I know it stuck with her too. And I said, you know what the difference is between this little boy and another little boy in the U.S.? The only difference is that one has opportunity and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, that's so intense. Yeah, is that's true.
Yeah.
For the record, I mean, you're saying so many meaningful things. Meaningful. Yeah, that's amazing. I hope that a lot of people heard that and say like, stop saying that meritocracy, you know.
Yeah.
Today you speak like your English is like fluently. I mean, you're an American citizen today, right?
Thanks,
but
yes.
I want to know like because you're Latin as well, and I want to know if you ever like face like
Prejudice.
Yeah, being Latin here. I know that is being a Latino. Yeah. I want to know your experience. Like you are living here for a long time and you experienced something like being in school and college and everything. And these are the phases of your lives that we face bullying and everything. So did you ever face something like that? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, there was one time, I'm not sure what it had to do really with my race, but I mean, we definitely faced like some obstacles of being like accepted in the community. I remember this was even after we were like legal, you know, and it was in like 98 or
yeah, because it's not a
stamp
stamp on your face like legal, illegal, right?
Nobody knows.
Yeah,
I mean, at this time
knows.
I spoke like, perfect English too. But I remember me and my brother, we went out to go get like, it was like SpaghettiOs or some canned food with like, you know, sauce and whatever. So we went outside. This is like at the time when we lived like in a dangerous area. And I remember we went outside, like some kids in front of us, like as like two guys. I think they were like a grade above us. At this time I was in 5th grade. My brother was in 6th. And these guys were like in 7th grade or something like that. So we're like maybe like a little bigger than us.
So you're like 14, 13 years old?
Something like that, I think, yeah. So I remember we went out. They asked us a question, something about Pokemon cards or something. And then we were like, oh, yeah, we have some and whatever. Then we went to the store. And dude, after like 2 seconds after, for some reason, they just like start beating us up. What is going on here? So they beat me and my brother up. And we like really didn't do anything. We were just like, all right, let's go to the store. And we went to the store after we got beat up. And, you know, we came back and went inside of our apartment. But I know my dad was like really mad.
Of course.
Yeah, so he called the cops. And we were like trying to look for these people. And I mean, I know who they were. And you know what? Honestly, I'm sure they're doing really great in their lives nowadays. So everyone gets what they deserve. I myself, I think I've been like really lucky also. Really fortunate that, you know, the people around me or the people that I associate myself with are not people that are, you know, like racist or that have ever, you know, that I've heard or anything like that. I've never said anything mean about me or nothing like that. So maybe I'm, you know, really fortunate. I want to clear that up too, because maybe I'm just lucky. I don't know if people, you know, hear other things, but I feel like I don't really get discriminated against. But this other event that happened that I always say that I think things are funny. Maybe it's a way for me to cope with them. But we were in upstate New York. It was Sarah and myself, and this was like maybe 4 years ago, maybe. And we were at a grocery store. And, I think we were looking for medicine because one of us wasn't feeling so good. We were like hugging each other. We weren't even like kissing or anything. We were literally just like holding each other, just like trying to comfort each other or something. We left the store, got our medicine, whatever. And later on, someone told Sarah, one of the customers at the grocery store complained that Sarah and her Mexican boyfriend were making out in the aisle. First of all, I was offended because
you're not Mexican.
I'm just kidding. I love you guys.
When you label people,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because you look at someone and this is so like you don't know anything.
There's people, they're just so intolerant about change, and that they cannot even, maybe control their lives, or they're just people that hate themselves and they just want to take it out on other people.
Yeah.
Out of the abundance of the heart, your mouth speaks. And I think it's in the Bible also, but it's so true, because out of whatever is overflowing from your heart, that's what you're going to be talking about. So, and that's the kind of people that, were saying those things, and we were like, we weren't even doing anything wrong, right? They just went ahead and were like, hey, your Mexican boyfriend was making out in public.
The funny thing about that is that if you're not a Latino, like this person was not gonna say like, oh, Sarah and her white boyfriend. This person was not gonna say that. So this is what everything is wrong. When you label people, you are you're wrong. So you're not gonna say like, you say that about black people, you say about Latinos, but you don't say that about white people. So that's where we have to know your own privilege, Can you tell us a little bit about the opportunities that you had, like living in the United States?
I mean, in Guatemala, obviously they have like universities, like good universities and like good schools. When living here in the U.S., it's just, everything is just at your hand's grasp. You don't need a ton of money. You don't need to have too many resources, and over here, the opportunities that I got were just like, incredible. I went to elementary school here. I went to high school. Then after high school, I literally only applied to one college, and that was Pace University. Shout out to Pace University, Pleasantville campus. I feel like an ad. But I love my university too. They were really great and provided me with all the opportunities. I mean, it's their motto, Opportunitas. I was able to get my my bachelor's degree in marketing, and I did a minor in French. And then also right after that, they provided me with another opportunity to work there full time. So I worked in the IT department there full time for about less than 2 years. And then while I was working there full time, they also paid for my master's. So I was able to get my master's for free. I only had to pay the taxes on it. But I got my master's in information systems, and and then I left to work for the company that I'm currently working at, which is an incredible company. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and financial technology, which in my opinion is probably like the convergence of like the two of the best things, technology and finance.
So, and you were the first one in your family to get a master's degree?
Yeah, I was the first one in my family. Everyone works in different levels, which is okay. I just happen to be the winner.
Congrats. Your family is still living in Connecticut, right? Your parents are still living there, and you have 4 siblings, right? Yep. So how is your family doing these days?
Yeah, so there's 5 of us in total. My older brother, me, and I have 2 younger sisters, and then I have 1 little brother. I mean, and again, this whole thing just comes back to like a whole opportunity thing, just taking advantage of the opportunities that you have and really being able to accomplish like everything that you can to the full potential that you can. I have my master's. Osmond also has his master's. Elizabeth also has her master's. And then the other two kids are just too young to have masters, so that's why they don't have theirs. But you know what? Honestly, eventually I'm sure that they will. Every time my parents or they talk about it with my other uncles and aunts or my other cousins, everyone, my dad has told me, he's like, they're very, very admired by you guys. You guys are doing something really good for the family because you took advantage of the education. Now we're all, I guess, well-educated Guatemalan Americans.
Do you think you would have a master or college degree if you still live in Guatemala? Being honest, what do you think your life will look like? In the best scenario, best case scenario.
I think best case scenario in Guatemala would be that I would still go to college, and then maybe I would have a good job, probably live okay. That's like best case scenario, and it would be just like okay, on a realistic level, without the resources that we would have had, I don't think I would be anywhere, honestly. I'd probably, just be living at home, doing odd jobs, wouldn't have my own place. I don't think so. I don't know. I think the most optimistic view would be of us being here in the U.S. and being able to just take, every opportunity we had to grow and to, be resourceful and succeed.
I don't know if you had a chance to watch that series that I mentioned in the beginning. There are a lot of stories on that Netflix documentary. Stories that look like yours, but like your story has a happy end. I mean, it's awful that you have to go through like crossing the border. I don't think this is something that a human being should face it. But I'm glad that you're here right now. But those stories are really sad. I mean, those people came here for the same reasons that your dad came, and they are facing deportation. These people are living here for more years than living in their home countries. So there are some people that move here like 1 year old. They are Americans. They're not like Mexicans or Colombians or Argentinians or Brazilians. What do you have to say about all these things involving immigration, United States? What do you say about that? And what do you just say for someone in that position?
I think that there's definitely is a right way to do it without being a burden to a country. I mean, there's so many things that have to change legally. I'm not a politician. I don't know what that process would entail, but I do know that some sort of change has to happen in the country where it facilitates immigration so that there's a balance. Because of an imbalance in someone's country, that's what causes people to become, desperate. And, so desperate that they're willing to, somebody's willing to, sacrifice their life for their family just across the border. And honestly, I think if you are that desperate, or if someone is that desperate where they need to do such an extreme thing, there has to be a safer way to do it instead of someone sacrificing, being a criminal or facing, some other obstacles. There has to be just like a better way, a easier way for people to be allowed into a country, not only the U.S., but maybe some other countries where, and they can be part of the community and be part of, the economy. I mean, we all know how immigration and the economy are, intermingled here in the U.S. There's just like, you don't have really that strong of an economy if if you have to pay someone, triple the cost or quadruple the cost. That's just a whole other can of worms too. I mean, that I don't know the details to, but my answer would be there has to be a better way for people to be accepted into the country. Another thing is like the country of origin of the people that are coming here illegally. Maybe those countries also need to put something in place. They need to maybe create better opportunities, and there's a lot of corruption in some countries too. So I'm sure that has to do something with it. Let's look at the source maybe first. But other than that, I think if there's like better laws, protecting, people coming into this country, legally, and then they're allowed to work and be part of the economy and part of the community. I think that would maybe be like a better balance. Just
thank you so much, Louis, for sharing your story.
Sure.
I got emotional in a lot of moments. We have to think about our own privilege. I mean, I'm here because my husband had a great opportunity because he got to go to school and everything. But a lot of people don't have the same opportunity. So we have to think about that. We have to be more like, I have to have empathy for other people's lives, right? We don't know their struggles. So I'm very glad and happy that you share your story, and I'm very happy to see that you and your family and Sarah, you're doing great today. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So if people want to send you a message, they can DM you on Instagram?
Yeah, you guys can send me a message. My username is _Luisito.
So thank you so much again, and we talk in the next episode. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks for having me.